Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Blitz Event Community Euroleague Day 10 playoffs for the finals. This evening we have the number 2 seed Legion versus the number 3 seed RA1D. Series of best of 5. First 2 games on Castilla, then 2 games potentially on Dead Rail, with the potential tiebreaker taking place on Yamato Harbor. And so looking at the lineups here, we have got RA1D rocking double bat chats, IS4, double IS7, double 268. Quite a nice lineup that I'm seeing here. Lots of mobility in the double bat chats.
As for Legion, we have a bat chat, Grill 15, 2 IS4s, 1 IS7, 268, and T5. A pretty standard setup for Castilla as well. So basically, it's standard versus standard. It all goes down to tactics and positioning.
Both clans are winners of their group from the qualifying series of the Blitz, the Wargaming qualifiers for the professional tournament, and both of them are rocking 2 of the camos that came out of that for the participants. But in the action, Thomas Legion IS7 has taken a hit going up to the position on the heel above C, and RA1D in the blue team are pushing very aggressively into that C cap.
Yeah, Django just lost almost all of his HP. He was just 1 shot away from Oxbow to finish him off. So good job by Oxbow right there. Just looking now, 268 has actually gone down for Legion, so that's unfortunate, but now Thomas and Oxbow, two arguably best players on the team, need to fight off 3 tanks by themselves.
And yeah, Oxbow's down, family-friendly Sten's down, so Legion have lost the mobility to the back. Thomas is isolated, in a bit of trouble. He's got some support by Engi there behind him in the Grill 15. Django, the IS7 from RA1D, has gone down. I'm trying to see where he's fallen. So there's a lot of pressure happening in lots of places at the moment. E5 from Legion, Gangdal pushing up to the Castilla, getting that overwatch position, trying to lay in some crossfire. But now Thomas is down. It's a 2-gun advantage in the favor of RA1D.
And yeah, it seems like NG and J6 are trying to fix this, as Fimblu and Drizel are wounded by themselves. Ice4 and Grill have a gun advantage, but Grill's quite swishy, as you may know, and HE fire can bring him down quickly.
And
there
that
goes
it did. Yeah. The Grill's down. I'm going to call this one. It's 5 guns on 2, the cap advantage in the favor of RA1D as well. I think RA1D pushed much more aggressively than Legion were expecting, and now it's just a question of how long it takes RA1D to take down J6R and Gangdalf.
Yeah, quite a blitzkrieg basically happening over here. We just saw first team of Legion being crushed. That's like, if you might have seen that Django in his IS7, who was going for the position near B from RA1D, was punished severely, but 268 by that time was already dead. So basically, that's just unfortunate. Basically, Legion did not account for a possibility of RA1D pushing C aggressively. That's what took their game away from them.
It really...
point.
Yeah, it really caught them by surprise. And it's a perfect example, I think, of how some strategies can be very strong against one potential move by your opponents. But if the opponents do something that catches you in the awkward position, the tables can turn very quickly. And I think that's what happened to Legion in this instance. RA1D inflicting over 14,000 hit points of damage, and Legion inflicting 8,600 or so. So really strong game there. By RA1D, but the spawns are going to switch, and the north spawn is widely regarded as the stronger spawn, I believe, for this map. I'm not too sure. These guys are the experts, so they're going to know the exact specifics on that. But we're changing the lineups now. RA1D changing a few tanks now. A 183 Batchat E50M. It's very interesting. Quite a different lineup to what we've seen by many clans on this map so far.
Yeah, as for Legion, they're going for 250Bs, a bad chat, and then they have a 268, an M60 is support for the bad chat most probably, and 1 i7 and 1, mouse instead of the i7, and an E4. So that's quite an interesting lineup in my opinion.
Yeah, these are two quite distinctive compositions of tanks that we've not really seen yet in the tournament. Legion with the Clippers and the Mouses certainly have the holding potential and burst damage. But the Sick and the 183, we've seen him do some amazing things in that tank in round two earlier in the tournament. And yeah, the Russian tanks for Raid, the IS-7s, IS-4s, very reliable and very well balanced. So let's see, we've got JP in the bat chat from Raid going into that spotting position, overlooking B and C. Oxbow in the bat chat from Legion's already spotted, pushing up across the B area.
Yeah, and it just seems like there was some hesitation for where the tanks should have moved on Legion's side of things, and NG and his buddy Gandalf in the 50Bs were kind of trying to go to A, but then it seems like Thomas changed his mind and said for them to stay near C as a surprise, basically counter in case somebody pushes there. And it seems like right now it's quite uncertain of where Legion wants to go, while positioning for Raid has been set dead in the ground with a heavy tank and a medium in form of E50M and I7 near A. They have Batchat as support, and then they are just covering B and trying to prevent it from being capped.
Yeah, this is the first time that we've seen an E50M on this map, I believe, and it's in that position that we saw one of the E5s from the previous game. Quite a strong hold down position, overwatching the A area. He's backed up by a 183 and a 268, Messi 18 in the 268, Sick in the 183 behind him, playing that back line along the ridge in the bushes behind the buildings just on the other side of the river from the A base. Amazing fire support there for the E50M. It looks like Raid are stacking themselves sort of on the A area, kind of that top left corner of the map. They do have one player. They've got Django in the IS4 covering B very effectively there. Put a decap shot into family-friendly Sten, the Mouse Legionary by Legion, and no damage inflicted though. I'm just trying to see who is covering. It looks like, yeah, Drizzle is the player who's denying C, but Legion have managed to cap B, and this is going to give them the cap pressure that they need.
Yeah, it just seems like Raid did pull back one of their tank destroyers that was on the hill near B, ready to shoot at anything that's in the cap. But it just seems like he was spotted, so he had to retreat as 50Bs most likely did try and punish him. Uh, Quite unfortunate because now the result is actually isolated and he has no way to run away. If he tries to run away, Oxbow is in a perfect position to put some rounds into him, and then the 50Bs are ready to push in at Thomas's command. Right now,
Oh, and a
I7,
huge hit.
yeah, I7 tried to cap, wait for green from Raid, tried to cap A, but he got reset, so he is now retreating back.
Yeah, and Raid are in a lot of trouble here. Sick is having to play very cautiously, down to 206 HP. JP in the backside took a big hit, down to less than 1,000 points. Drizzle's bled a few hit points. Django's down to half health. Wait for Green in the IS-7, also in a bit of strife. They're about 2,500 hit points behind Legion at the moment. Legion's still very, very healthy in terms of hit points, and still holding on to B, and the cap point lead going away in their favor.
Seems like the Thomas is not really trying to spot A, as there is not really much need. Um, Even if they did spot and reset that IS-7 in A for Raid, they would still be in points advantage, and C is basically firmly secured by the Batchat and a 50B. So I don't see anything but a push from Raid doing anything unless they isolate the tank.
Well, yeah, Raid have managed to get the A cap, so at least the gap isn't increasing, but we're looking at a 200 hit point gap, and that's 2 kills.
Yeah, and now it seems like Django and his IS4 is now pushing into B, trying to cap it. Basically, not only cap it but also prevent any points incoming. And he was almost successful in doing the capture itself. But that's not really the point. He just needs to stay there as long as possible, prevent Legion from getting any points in. But now he's about to give out points to Legion. There he goes down.
Yeah, Django gets clipped out by Oxbow in the bat chat. Really strong position by Oxbow there. I think he was probably proxy spotting IS4, or was the IS4 being spotted from above? Either way, Oxbow's managed to keep the hit points in the favor of Legion and put them a gun up. And he is in a very dominant position here, really securing the map control for Legion.
Yeah, and now basically on the hit points game as well, 4,000 points down are guys from Raid, and Thomas is now being rushed by the E50M and Batchat of some sorts, and now Thomas is in a really sticky situation. He's just gonna try and survive as long as possible.
It's worth pointing out that Raid have lost the 183, Sick and Drizzle in the IS4, but Thomas has gone down. That's really lost the vision, but Legion are 300 points clear of Raid at the moment. And although Oxbow almost got taken down by some fire, probably a HE shell from the 268, he's still hanging in there. He's still got the mobility for Legion, and he can probably carry the game even if the other tanks go down. But looking at the hit points, it's going to be very difficult to raid to push out aggressively against two full, well, almost full hit point tanks now, 50Bs. And Finblue, the E50M's taken down by Gangdalf Legion. And I'm going to call this one for Legion at this point.
Yeah, actually, that's the thing. As soon as Thomas got killed, he basically got free eyes on every single tank. And as he is the clan war leader of Legion, he has now full control of every single person separately. So I think there's little to no chance for Ray to recover from this one. Yeah, there
Although,
goes the wait for green. So it's 1-1 up to this point. A victory to on Castillo on the second game for Legion.
yes, and bearing in mind that when Raid and Legion met head to head in the second round, they went 2-2. With Raid taking 2 victories on the first map series and Legion taking 2 victories on the second map series. And this scoreline, 1 game apiece on each map, is much more what Thomas had said he'd envisioned during the interview we did with him on Monday evening.
So basically, Thomas uh, is now being set as on his team as the uh, like magician extraordinaire, as he's just doing everything in the way that he wants to, and everything comes to his plan. But we'll see how it goes down on Dead Rail right now.
Yeah, and Dead Rail is such an interesting map. We saw some great tactics in the game versus Win and, well, the one game that Win and Argo played on that map. It's got a lot of open fire lanes, a lot of very interesting fighting environments, some hills up to one side, a depression, a valley, split by train tracks and city environment in the middle. For tier 10 tanks, it's a great mixture of environments. It's quite campy though. There's a lot of scope for TDs, so both teams look like they're taking a 183 at this point.
Yeah, on Dead Rail, the real big issue for pushing or even taking caps is the fact that if you want to cap A, it's an open area, so there's little to no cover at all to hide behind while capping, so TDs can feast there. Then you have B, which is really difficult to cap while you're side scraping in the super heavy, as it's just too big with the center of mass not sometimes being over the cap, so you can be reset easily by HE or sometimes even penetrated if it's an even 100, for example. As for C, again, on top of the hill, maybe gives some height advantage against the B cap, but still, you can still put a tank destroyer right in front of it, and C cap will be not taken anyway.
Yeah, and I am just looking at the compositions here. We've got Legion taking quite a standard lineup. It looks like they're going to be taking a mixture of heavy tanks, mouses, clippers, with some TD support, 268 grills, and the like. And I'm looking over at Raid, and I don't know if this is their final team composition. But if this is going to be an extremely interesting and rapid game.
7-140s, a tank that's being called underpowered in comparison of T62A. What are guys thinking right? Yeah, we're going into the first game on Dead Rail with 6-140s and a T62A.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what, Ark. I am excited to see what Raid are going to do. I just want to see where are they taking these tanks. This is such an interesting lineup. If I'm Legion now, I am wondering what is happening, and I would say all bets are off at this moment. Is it going to be an Iron Fist? Are they going to push through, or are they going to use mobility and guile and just okay? There's six tanks of the same, but there's so many possibilities at the moment.
Yeah, and in fact, Raid are pushing A heavily. Uh, Legion really giving up A cap right now, probably going for the city, as then the maneuverability trait of the medium tank, Russian mediums, will be kind of lost. But really, at this point, A has been taken. There are still three tanks for raid near B. So if anybody tries to cap B, but they're not going to do that for Legion, they're actually pushing in 50 Bs in to clip these three medium tanks. But
Yeah, Wait for Green is in a lot of trouble here. He really needs to stop peaking and bleeding damage. Django's not losing damage, but Sick in the 140 is taking damage. It looks like Raid are trying to get positions where they're going hull down at the ridge by the rails towards either spawn, and actually now pushing through into B. Are they going to try and clip off? They're pushing into Legion very aggressively. Gangdalf, the soft 50Bs are great targets for the high DPM, low penetration Russian tanks, and Gandalf looks like he's going down very quickly.
yeah, that's exactly the point of Russian mediums. They're supposed to be not using reach lines. They're not supposed to be like sitting in one place. They're supposed to be going in and doing the damage, even if they take damage themselves, because DPM is a troll for these tanks, and yeah, sometimes the armor helps them as well.
But
But
now the balance is swinging. The tanks are losing some hit points, having to rotate people out. We've got Drizzle down to a one shot, Wait for Green down to less than half a one shot. They need to use that medium mobility and start isolating the softer targets again. Oxbow is probably going to be the next one to go down. No, but Fimblu, Object 140 down for Raid.
yeah, and it just seems like the mouses are coming to great use against the 140s and T62As, as mouses are basically really hard to penetrate unless the Russian mediums get the back of the tanks. And it just seems like Legion are now losing the IS-7, and while they are doing so, they are trading it for two mediums basically.
Well, we have
Six,
Yeah,
yeah.
we have three. Well, now two. Now one. 140 from Raid in double-digit hit points, which is not what you want. Legion had such a huge hit point advantage from the start, and I think it was a great plan by Raid, but they just failed to execute. They lost too many hit points before being able to bring down the Legion guns.
If you make a lineup of the same type of tank from the same nation and the same tech tree, I really think the surprise factor comes into play. If they wouldn't be so passive after they've pushed into A with the 140s and T62A, if they just kept on going and isolating tanks, that would be the winning factor. But they actually gave up that opportunity, and that's exactly what they're paying for right now.
Yeah, and by not the strength of the Russian medium is the DPM, those sky high DPM numbers. And if you aren't pushing, you aren't using that DPM, and you're letting the heavy tanks, the 268s, the grills reload, and you're swinging the DPM back in their favor.
Yeah, so it's now wait for Green in his 140 left. He's basically a one shot for everybody on the Legion's team. If they fire HE at him, basically sneeze at him, it's gonna be enough.
Yeah, wait for
So
Green. I would not like to be wait for Green right now. He is waiting for death rather than waiting for Green. He's tracked Whoopsie, but it's not enough. Goes down. Credit to Raid though. I thought we were back in 2016 there. Really interesting to see that one play out.
I still think that some sacrifices were the best for Legion. the way they adjusted to it instantly. That's exactly the flexibility you should be counting on when you're facing Legion, and that's exactly what they put into use. They did lose Gandalf as a 50B and lost a significant chunk of hit points on the other 50B, but then again, they used them to put some early damage in to basically hinder the Raid's ability to push in. And even if they lost those two 50Bs, they still had a great support in the form of two Mouses who are really hard to penetrate. So we shall see what happens here because Legion, if they win the next game, it's 3-1 and it's best of five, and that would mean that Legion are taking this down this evening and going to the final. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I'm personally hoping that Raid manage to win this one, and that we get to see these two teams duke it out on the tiebreaker map, Yamato Harbor. But it looks like Raid are returning to a more typical lineup that we're seeing in the current meta: 183, some Russian heavies, IS4s, IS7s, a 268, and then a M48 pattern and T110E5.
Yeah, well, right now Raid are being actually reasonable, if I'm completely honest. Uh, the Russian mediums, in my opinion, they're not the not the best for pushing. They're not best for defense. They're basically something that you are not counting on as much. Basically, they all they have going for them is the DPM. So, in my opinion, taking maybe leopards would be even better, although they are a bit squishier. Or maybe if not leopards, then take something like Batchats or a full rush lineup of heavy tanks like AMX 50Bs with autoloaders. Uh, but then again, props to them. Really, a really great idea. Not maybe executed that well, but still a great idea by them.
And now in this game, we're seeing Raid taking a much more aggressive and dynamic control of the map. Legion playing much more passively. The two TDs by Legion hanging back between the red and the red 1, red 2 area by the rails. They've got two heavies pushing up towards the C cap. It looks like the E5s. And we've got the two Mouses, that's family friendly Sten and Thomas Legion in the legionary clan camo there, locking down the B area. And then J6R on the IS7 playing the ridgeline just above A.
Yeah, I still like. I think that Legion were still kind of afraid of Raid trying the same thing again. I don't think they would be though. That's like the part of psychology. If it doesn't work, you shouldn't use like you are deterred from using it again. That's basically fail or like win or fail type of learning. And basically, they were staying passive at the very beginning, and now they're pushing up their tanks equally all across the line near caps, and I think we might even see an attack near C, as that ground is not as well covered as A and B by Raid.
Yeah, and Raid are losing. Well, 18 in the pattern took a bit of a beating from the E5s early on. And Wait for Green in the 268 is down. And this is potentially opening the floor for Legion to make a push. Although Thin Blue in the E5 still full hit points, still holding down the C area. Just trying to see. I'm wondering where the push is going to come from. It looks like no. It's still pretty much they're pulling back from all the cap areas at the moment. Although Raid have managed to sneak the C cap earlier on in the game, and this is giving them the cap pressure, so they can
Yeah, now
afford.
E5s from Legion are actually starting to pressure the Fimblu. Uh, if I may, like Messi is actually not that like healthy, so he needs to be careful when he tries to support his teammate. But right now, 183 trying to relocate as quickly as possible, and I think at this point Gandalf and Oxborough are actually not trying to do anything. And now Legion are losing A to Raid. Quite unfortunate in my opinion. So we'll see what happens now.
Well, J6R has rotated around in the IS7 to try and stop JP, and he's managed to successfully reset the A cap. But now he's outnumbered 2-1. Raid have got JP and Django, IS7, IS4, double teaming J6R. Family friendly Sten took a huge hit from Sick in the 183 and is down to less than half points. Legion need to start knocking out some guns. Engi, the grill from Legion, pushing up very aggressively behind Thomas Legion. It looks like they're rotating round. They've managed to knock out Finblue now, the E5. Can Raid hold on to the guns and the cap points?
I think right now Legion are pushing the medium that is isolated, and the AFV 183 as well. And the IS4 will be isolated soon after. So while Legion did lose family friendly stands and what it seems like J6R completely, and then the stand being real low in hit points, they are making a great breakthrough, basically pulling everything down. And that maybe that was bait, and maybe that was just coincidence. That's exactly what Thomas maybe realized that he needs to push right in.
Well,
So
it's wonderful watching Legion because what they've done is they've, in the process of rotating, they've capped two and they've managed to kill all of the raid tanks. It's a really effective strategy that's just completely dominated raid. I thought raid were actually rotating to an advantage when they focused on J6R, but like you say, it seems to have been a bait tactic, and it's given Legion the third and final victory in the series, which means that on Friday we are going to be seeing Legion versus Argo in the grand finals, and Win versus Raid in the playoff for third place.
yeah, quite an interesting ending, as Argo did say to us in the form of Shaka that they were expecting something from Win, and they, as fourth place in the playoffs, actually did beat Win. So they were fourth place, and Win were in the first place by points from the round two. And now we see Legion pulling down Raid. I think it will be a great matchup of newcomers that are trying to get to the top once more, and maybe knock down Legion at some point in the future. As this is not an official tournament, sadly, but it's still quite interesting to see what happens. And I really hope that this keeps continuing on. And I wish to Argo and Legion, if you hear this, keep in mind, Argo are dangerous opponents. They're quite tactical. Maybe they may have some stationary tactics, but their tactics are based on your mistakes. So don't make it easy for each other. I really hope to see you both clans, if you hear this, on finals on Friday, just massacring it out there, just giving the best performance you ever had.
It's going to be such an interesting series, and particularly like we've been discussing earlier, it's going to be a best of 9. So we're going to get at least 5 games if one team goes a 5-0 victory over the other, which I'm not expecting. But it's going to be a very interesting series. We're going to hopefully see a lot of diversity in the strategies, and we know from the interview of Shaka earlier that Argo are going to be preparing for this very hard. They take Legion as, and rightly so, a very tough opponent, very, very seriously, and will be doing their homework, trying to second guess what Thomas, the mastermind, the clan leader, is going to be having Legion do on the field on the day. But thank you very much to you guys at home for watching. Thanks to Ark for commentating this evening. And this is me, Red, your co-commentator. And we are being brought to you on GAN's YouTube channel, live on stream. Thank you very much, and good night.
It's been a pleasure.